It's in our
it's
national.
in China's national interest.
Don't shout over me. Don't shout over me.
Just keep
it's not
it calm.
a good look. It's in our. Are you talking over me again?
I'm asking you.
Are you talking over me again?
You asked me.
Are you?
Richard.
Okay, can I speak?
Richard and Lucy, just
can I speak?
Cool it.
Nonsense and can't even.
What an odious woman. This Labour MP is probably the rudest, most irascible person I've ever heard on TV. She's clearly playing the feminism card and using her female privilege. A man would never be able to get away with this kind of aggression towards a woman. She would never speak to another woman like this in a million years. She accused him of talking over her, then did the exact same herself. This is a woman who is always complaining about the gender bias. This debate was about the Chagos Islands. She was repeatedly asked, why is handing the islands back to Mauritius in the national interests of Britain, time and time again? And never once does she answer the question. She can't answer the question because she knows it is not in our interests. This is all part of their anti-British decolonisation agenda. This woman was asked directly on more than one occasion on Question Time last week, when will Labour put the British people first? She dismissed the question with contempt on both occasions. Take a listen to this.
£18 billion.
Well, you know that's nonsense.
Hang on, just before we jump to the figures that are involved.
They're nonsense. You know they're nonsense.
Well, what are they then, Lucy?
You know they're nonsense.
What are they then?
They're nonsense, and you know they're nonsense.
Well, hang on.
You don't know, do you, Lucy?
No, they're nonsense.
You don't know, do you?
They will become clear, but I know that they are nonsense.
Right, well, let's talk about...
And so it's ridiculous.
Well, Richard and Lucy...
So you want to get onto that whilst ducking the very important issue here, which is, it's in our national interests and it's in our national security.
It's absolutely not in our national interest.
It's in our national...
It's in China's national interest.
Don't shout over me. Don't shout over me.
Just keep it calm.
It's not a good look. It's in our national security.
You can't even answer the question about how much it's going to cost.
Are you talking over me again?
I'm asking you.
Are you talking over me again?
You asked me.
Are you?
Richard,
okay, can I speak?
Richard and Lucy, just
can I speak?
Cool it.
Nonsense and can't even
right, well, hang on. I will come back to you.
Stop speaking over me.
But Lucy, answer the question about the cost.
It is in our national security and in our national interests to get a long-term arrangement to keep that important military base in Chagos, which was under big question mark, which is why the previous government began these negotiations and continue to do them many times.
Yeah.
And we've come to the beginnings of an arrangement. It's not finalised. Those negotiations are still ongoing, and the full details of those, when they are agreed, and they are agreed by Cabinet, will become to Parliament.
Right.
And at that point, Richard can see that what he's saying is nonsense.
Well, hang on. What he's saying, you're referring to the amount of money that he's citing. Yeah. But in terms of the actual arrangement, Richard, surely what was being discussed when it first started under Liz Truss's government is the same as now, which is a lease on that base. In other words, that would have to be paid for.
Look, there's a totally different position to where Labour are now to where we were under the last government.
And what is it?
Well, I'm going to be very clear about it. What we were doing at the time was talking to them about what might be the future. It's quite clear now what's come out very quickly from this government, trying to move at an immense pace, because this has happened, remember, this happened within a few months of Labour getting into office as well, was a deal around the future, some money, Lucy won't tell us...
I'll come to that, Lucy, with the money in a minute.
It's actually going to cost us. There's real issues now, which have developed over the last few years, around not just the Silk Road initiative from China, but the massive land grab across the Indian Ocean and the Far East. There are huge international implications around that. We don't know the opinions of the American administration, our closest ally, our other NATO allies. I mean, Lucy, do you know any of the opinions of the US government about this, or around? Can you tell us the money?
Do you know the negotiations that your government were doing? Were you privy to those?
I wasn't part of them.
No, you weren't. No, you weren't.
I wasn't part of them all.
No, you weren't.
But, I mean,
you weren't.
Well, let him finish.
Okay, you weren't.
Rather than talking over me, as you criticise me for, I'm losing a rag about this, Lucy, because you can't even tell. You accuse me of not being aware of what the situation, but your government's literally putting this forwards at the moment.
Well, let's just see if we can make a bit of progress in terms of the money. There is money involved, I presume. Billions of pounds involved. I presume that is the subject of negotiation in order to keep some sort of control over the UK-US airbase. There is going to be money paid, and according to the Mauritian Prime Minister, it's going to have to be front-loaded. So are we talking in the realm of several billion pounds?
The figures that are being bandied about by Richard and others are nonsense. The full details have yet to be agreed. They've not been signed off. I've not seen. They've not been signed off by Cabinet or by anybody else. So these are still discussions. Obviously, what we are securing is a long-term arrangement for a long period of time for us to operate a very important military base. The question over it continuing to be there was a very serious question.
Can we
needed to be resolved, which is why the previous government they didn't just have some initial chats that was just like, just scoping. They had 11 rounds. Successive foreign secretaries, many of whom came in and thought, oh, why do we need to carry on doing this? And then carried on those.
All right, well, Richard, was there never
so it was
ever
extensive conversations?
He
doesn't know.
No, well, you say you don't know the content of those conversations and negotiations for obvious reasons.
It's very clear that the current government minister sat next to me has no idea of anything and criticises. Can we just finish? And criticises the figures that I'm putting forwards, but herself has no idea.
At the moment, I do have an idea. I know they're nonsense.
Hang on.
Well, you just said it. Well,
I know they're nonsense, but I'm not claiming to know something I didn't know, and you're claiming to know something you didn't know.
You
said you had no detailed conversations.
Lucy, let him.
You didn't know.
You've literally agreed it would be billions, but I
haven't agreed it'd be billions. I haven't agreed anything. I said that.
Anyway.
I said that figure was nonsense.
So
that's all I said. That figure.
Well, let's
is
just
nonsense.
say 9 billion and 18.
That figure is nonsense.
Let's see when it comes forwards.
Yeah.
9 billion and 18 billion pounds is nonsense, says Lucy. Those are the two figures that have actually been talked about.
18 billion, you just said to me. I said that figure is nonsense.
But 9 billion maybe not.
And that figure is nonsense. And what I'm saying is these details will come to... I'm not sitting here like negotiating a figure that is still in discussion and a part of a much bigger arrangement.
Right. Well, let me ask Richard.
What I'm not pretending, which Richard is pretending, is that somehow under his government, and he doesn't actually know because he wasn't privy to this information when he was in government, the extent of the negotiations that went on under the previous government, because it's in our national interest to do so.
Well, of course, hang on.
And we will only sign a deal that is in our national interest that secures
our we have to obviously take your word of that because we don't see it.
Military
but Richard,
base on that
on the basis that this has been a pretty heightened debate about an issue that neither of you actually have that much knowledge of, why doesn't Kemi Baden not get that briefing? Because then she could, then she'd know, presumably, if Keir Starmer is right, she could have the briefing on national security and legal issues. No doubt the money would be there too if there wasn't a price tag when the Conservatives were negotiating before. Why not just have that briefing?
Well, let's be very clear. She may well have already had a briefing about the broader issues within government.
Well, she hasn't, because Keir Starmer said she hasn't asked him.
Wait. When she was in government, and I'm not certain that actually there are any major new issues which have arisen, and maybe Lucy can tell me if they have.
But you just said it was completely different.
Wait, let me just explain. Let me go through.
You just said
hang on, Lucy.
Different.
Lucy, maybe you could tell me what's the geopolitical difference or the legal differences between what you know now and what they knew under the last.
Can I just say, I don't think Lucy knows. I hope I'm not putting words into your mouth on the specifics. And what I'm asking you is, why not?
Which is exactly because, Joe, if there aren't any major significant legal or international differences between what happens now and in the last government, then obviously Kemi Baden may.
But what harm is there in asking?
If there are no differences, then
she was going to